Hello, welcome to another episode of The High Ground, powered by Premier Companies. Jeff, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful, Sal. Yourself?
Outstanding.
Who you got for us today?
Our favorite guest.
Oh, again?
Again, Aaron Bledsoe. Because we want to know what these grain markets are going to do.
So do I.
Stop it. Would you quit it? But before we get to that, we always have to have the question of the day. And I forget what we put down for the question of the day. What was the question of the day going to be?
Favorite family vacation story.
That was it.
Yeah.
Favorite one that you have or going to have. So upcoming, either one you did or one you're planning.
You know, even though we're a little past Christmas, I still feel like you have to say that there's an RV, Clark.
What? You're going to rent an RV?
No, but you're like, what's your favorite family vacation? I'm like, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
Like, who's like, I don't know. I'm sorry.
It's a classic.
It's world's favorite Christmas vacation. So, no, I'd say it was probably back, I don't know, it was 2020 or something like that. My wife and I took our daughter down to Disney, and we were down there for a couple of days, and that was probably the funnest one that I've had, you know, as far as a family vacation
Pre-COVID
goes.
or post-COVID or during COVID?
We were just before the
You made
world
it.
started to go nuts. So,
You guys made it.
We got down there just in time. Yeah. So we didn't have to do any of the mask crap, and I won't even get into all that. But
Do the Magic Kingdom?
yeah, I mean, it was a big trip. My baby girl, my little daughter. She's pretty spoiled. So we
How old was she on that trip?
Oh my gosh,
2, 3?
3,
Yeah.
4, something like that. Yeah. It was one of the first times that she cost me to actually go. Yeah.
That's how you measure timelines.
It is, yeah. I mean, there's
That's how you measure
there
time.
is. Jeff, you know it. You've got a bunch of kids. There's a point in time where they're free, and then there's a point in time where they're not. And she was free at that point.
It's when she cost me.
I don't know. What about you guys?
Disney. Jeff, what's yours?
You know, and I don't know if I've ever told this one on here or not. I may have used this one before, but it was Christmas, and my parents and my sisters were all down in the Memphis area where my parents lived at the time, and we had not planned on getting together. It was just, you know, families too spread out, and it was, I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I think we'd gone to like the late church service, came home and sitting around, look at the kids and go, "You guys want to drive to Memphis and surprise your grandparents?" And we left at like midnight. It's like 6.5 hour drive. We drove through the night, and we literally just busted in the front door and went in there and went surprise, and just shocked them all. They were, of course, you know,
my gosh.
all the, you know, a lot of them were still asleep. Dad was up making coffee, and so it was pretty cool. We surprised the heck out of them. That's probably the coolest thing we ever pulled off for kind of a little mini vacation.
That's huge.
That's cool.
That's
That's
neat.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of those. That's a memory that they'll never forget.
Yeah, it was probably the last time where we had, you know, before the kids started getting older and getting married. So it was, you know, I think some of the olders were in college, but we had all 7 kids home. So there's 9 of us showing up, and, you know, we just drove through the night, and kids all napped and got in there and showed up and surprised the heck out of them.
That's cool. I don't have anything to top that, but I think we like Gatlinburg family. We go down there, and the first time we went, that was 20-something years ago. Kim and I went down there, but I always thought Gatlinburg, they had those cabins, you know, on a hill or something, but it's actually up in a mountain and great views. But we found that when we're down there, we'll do things like play games and do stuff like that if I was home, I'd be out on a piece of equipment or something like that, and it just forces you to do something. You
They
know,
got some cool cabins you can rent down there.
they have some super cool cabins.
Do you get the ones with the indoor pools?
Yes. So they get, I don't know what it costs. Kim does all that, but
You don't want to know, probably.
I do not want to know.
Well, I mean, but that was 20 years ago. Sounds a lot cheaper now. I mean, if you look back at what it cost then, I mean,
I don't know. Probably.
yeah. I mean, pre-kids favorite trip was Charleston with my wife. Yeah, that was, we really like it down there. Kiowa Island to be specific.
Really?
But, oh yeah, it's really nice.
Kim and I went to South Padre Island and had a blast.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-kids,
Yep.
pre-child.
Yeah. I don't know. Jeff, I'd say you probably have some vacations pre-kids.
I can't remember back that far.
I don't think you could. Well, that's another episode of the High Ground. No, stop. All right. Well, Aaron, grain.
Yeah.
Go.
See, Aaron's been trying to deflect.
Yes.
He's trying to.
Yeah. You know, everybody's like, "Oh, you just love buying cheap stuff." I'm like, "No, actually, I had more fun when it was like $6-7 corn and $15 beans. Everybody's in a good mood.
We don't care, right?
Yeah, at these prices, it's tough.
But as a buyer, you don't. It doesn't matter.
It's not like I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, corn's so cheap. I love this." No, it makes no difference to me on how our business model works. It makes no difference. So, it's just another wrinkle right now. It's tough in the ag economy right now for the farmers. And, you know, they've got the bridge payments coming at the end of February, hopefully. Do
we know more about those?
Yeah. So like
when I say we, do you?
Well,
no.
And like the big thing was this was supposed to be because of the trade disputes and things like that for the soybean farmers. And if you look at the dollar per acre, you know, corn's coming in at $44.36. And beans are coming in at $30.88. So what
was
beans again?
$30.88. Yeah.
I think the average for the corn, soybean, wheat was like $38. Does that sound right?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're a cotton farmer, it was like way higher.
Yeah. I didn't even look at those because I was just like, that's not my realm I play in. And I'm not sure I want to be sick to my stomach. So no, but and the other piece to this is there's a
timestamp this. I mean, we're here. What, this 8th day of January?
Yeah,
when we're
January
this.
8th. Yeah, so we've got the big data dump here in a couple of days on January 12th. So I'm either going to sound like an idiot or I'm going to sound like a genius. I want to remind everybody I am an idiot. So if I get lucky and I call some of these right for the 12th report, great. If not, I warned you. But no,
if you call it wrong, we'll probably replay this clip a lot.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
This is when we show the disclaimer.
Yeah.
These are Aaron's opinion, not necessarily the opinion of Premier.
Yeah. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us. No. But the farmer bridge payment, there is a max to this, $155,000 to the entity partners. However you want to figure that up, how your farm's structured, $155,000 max there. So, you're probably looking at, it would probably cover, depending on your mix of, how much corn acres do you have, bean acres? I'm going to say somewhere in that 1,500 to 3,000 acre farmer, that it'll probably cover all your acres there. If you get above that, it's only going to cover a portion. If you're smaller than that, it's going to cover all your acres, right? But that's what the farmer bridge payment looks like right now. Like I said, it's supposed to come out. They're supposed to see payments by the end of February. It's the government. We'll see. So that was the big one. Everybody was waiting to see what kind of payment they were going to get from that because of the trade disputes again. And now we're just solely focused on what is this report going to say. And everyone has felt like for months, and with the government shutdown, a lot of this stuff got screwed up. I mean, everyone's been debating, well, you can't even trust the November report because we're just coming out of the government shutdown. The December, they didn't have enough time to get all the actual data in. January, we're like, the government's been open long enough. We're going to have the information that we've been waiting to hear. And my opinion is I'm not going to look at this report and say, well, I don't trust it because they just got back in session. Like, they've had enough time now to go through all the data, at their expense, at least. So right now, pre-report, they're saying 186 for corn on yield and 53 bushels for beans. And so the trade estimates are saying 184 and 52.7. So beans, pretty close. The trade feels like most of the people in the market feel like the 53 is probably pretty close. Trim it a little bit, nothing crazy, right? Corn, they've been saying we need to drop this thing for, even before we started harvesting. They were saying 188 because that's where we started, 188. It's too high. Well, they got it down to 186. And now they're saying, it still needs to be down. And I mean, some of these ranges even get all the way down into 181 type of range. If they come in at 184, I will be surprised. Not saying that they can't. They showed last year where they dropped it a couple bushels, but usually I think, trying to rack my brain, I think maybe about a bushel is probably about the average of if they drop it, we might see a bushel off. So still 185 is going to be helpful instead of 186. So all that to say, with those differences in the yield, if the trade is right and those averages come true, instead of a 2 billion bushel carryout on corn, they're talking just under a 2 billion bushel carry, like a 1.97 billion bushel carryout. Still a lot of corn. We're still talking around that 12, 13% stocks to use rate on corn. So it's not like we're like overly burdensome, but we've definitely got plenty of corn. There's no risk of running out at the moment. The biggest question as far as these reports go will be on the export piece. So corn's got a story where we're running, I think I've got it down here. Let me find 11% ahead of the seasonal pace to meet the USDA number. So that means we are well ahead of pace on the corn exports. So that is good. That is a very bullish signal, right? That is saying we are moving this corn. We are chewing through it. Prices may not look good, but prices are doing their job. It's moving it to where it needs to go. And right now, Mexico's always our number one buyer. I don't want to say always. Typically our number one buyer. They are definitely the number one buyer this year. And a lot of that, I think, can be contributed to that New World screwworm. I always get the name screwed up. But they're not sending the cattle over to be finished out on the feedlots. So they're having to finish a lot of cattle down there. So they're gobbling through corn. And we've got it. So we're moving it out that way. It's been great. Exports are good.
But is that just offsetting what we're feeding in this country?
And that's where the big question comes in is we probably need to see a correction in the feed usage number. Does the increase in the export number that probably still needs to happen again? I mean, they've already bumped it up once. They'll probably need to bump it up again, but they haven't messed with the feed usage number. So when they finally do start tinkering with that number, does it kind of offset each other and we come out in a wash and we're still looking at a 2 billion bushel carryout? That's the question for corn. I mean, the feed usage number in my mind is the gorilla in the room. What happens there? The yield, they could drop it. They could leave it. I think there was pockets in the Lagodi area, where my home base is. We had some really good yields and then we had some really bad yields. And I don't want to say overall we just had an average crop. But then you go up towards the Columbus area, I think they did a little better than we did. So, and I think you're seeing that through the Eastern Corn Belt. But as soon as you get out a little bit further west, there's always pockets, but they had a pretty good crop. On the bean front, it goes back to the exports. We're 20% behind the seasonal pace to hit the USDA number. So that just signals at some point they're probably going to have to lower these export numbers. If not, we're going to have to pick up the pace. And a lot of the news, you'll hear, well, China's almost to that 12 million metric ton of purchases, but we haven't shipped them. So the best way that I've heard it is that sales are great, but they mean nothing until the ship's actually loaded and it's been inspected. Inspections are 100%. They're going. Unless they cancel it out at sea, which is a big deal, they're gone. Like that is something that you can write in the books and done. The fear right now is if you look at basis values between us and Brazil right now, when you get into Feb, they're $1 cheaper than we are. With a weaker currency and the U.S. dollar still holding pretty good. I mean, it's weakened a little bit, which has helped the U.S. ag form, right? It sounds weird. We want a weaker dollar for the ag economy, but it makes our stuff cheaper to move out to other places. So when our dollar is holding value, but their currency is not real great, it makes them more money and it's cheaper for people to buy it from them. And so it's kind of a weird dynamic right now. And the world itself just has plenty of beans. I mean, they're talking about a record crop coming out of South America again. Combines have started. They're not in the glut of harvest down there yet, but that's where you get into February and you start to see those values. It's like, man, you hear these sales come out saying that China bought some for April, May delivery. And it's like, why? Like economically, that doesn't make any sense. So it's either going to be a token, and they're going to take shipment of those, and it's going to be a token thing to hit the 12 million metric tons, which means that they're playing some geopolitical card, right? Because economically, it doesn't make any sense. Why would you buy it for more money when you can buy it for somewhere cheaper that you've invested billions of dollars in. So that's the big question mark. And everyone's been like, well, we need to see that rally. And we did. We saw a $1.50 rally in the bean futures back in November. And then since then, we've just slowly trickled down and we've lost that now. And the funds don't tell everything, but they tell you kind of where the market feels like it's leaning. I mean, you know, the funds are there to offset some of the other stuff, right? I mean, there's always a buyer and there's always a seller. And so no one complains about the funds whenever they run it up, right? Yeah. It's just, the funds don't know what they're talking about. That comes out when it bleeds the market out. And all of that to say is when we start talking about how the beans came up right before the purchase agreement came out, mind you, I still haven't heard of them actually signing it. So again, do you trust China? Side note. But, you know, when those futures took off like that on the bean front and it dragged corn up with it, at that time, the funds were long corn just under 30,000 contracts. Okay. They had worked that thing up to be the beginning of December 9th, I think is when I got this number, to an estimated 194,000 contracts long for beans. That's a lot. That is a whole lot. That is the funds saying that was them buying into this thing, hearing rumors of, yeah, this deal's going to get done. This deal's going to get done, but they didn't know what the deal was going to be. They just bought into this thing. Now, corn had a wild ride, but I'll stick with beans. Now they're 84,000 contracts long. So they've trimmed 110,000 contracts
in just a couple
5,000 bushel, 5,000 bushel each increments.
Over what time period did they trim it down?
To now. That was like the first week of December to now. Wow. And it's not like it's like they went from really long to short a little bit to back to long. They've just continued to trim that long position. And so when they trim it, what they're doing is they're banking some profits. They're saying, okay, well, it's ran up. We really don't think it's got much more strength, so we're going to exit some of these positions. Corn, it had a wild ride. Like I said, it started at just under 30,000 long. It went actually short 25 to 30,000 contracts in the negative. So that means that they were shorting the market thinking, hey, it's got some life. Like they were shorting it. They're saying, we really don't like this anymore. We think this thing's going to keep going down. And then they'll buy it out later on. Right. Cause they've established it up here. They're hoping to get it down here when they buy it back. Whereas the beans, they ran it up here. They were buying and then the futures kept going up. And then now that position started to trim, they started to sell it and work that down. But corn started out December about 30,000 long. Now they're 3,200, but like I said, they went to 25 to 30,000 contracts short. So that's where you've gotten this wild ride on corn, and it's wild, but it's only been a 15-cent trading window for the March futures for about a month now.
With that much movement and volatility and uncertainty and only 15 cents, what does that, I mean, does that tell us anything?
So I like to think of it as corn has a bean problem. Beans will go on wild rides. I mean, they'll lose 15 cents. I mean, last week they had multiple days where it was horrible. And then we came back this week, which some of that could be attributed to the holidays. Low volume. If you get a bunch of people kind of leaning one way, it kind of moves the market in the wrong direction, even though that's not the feeling of the majority. Everyone's back in the office now. And so we're seeing some strength this week. I think it's all pre-report positioning. But I think corn has a bean problem in that if beans go one way, corn just kind of follows it. Right now, usually corn is king, and that'll lead the race. Beans are kind of leading it right now because it's just like, man, this thing does not feel good. At least from the seat I sit in right now, I look at this and barring a geopolitical movement or something wild happening, like, president getting taken out of the country, or if they finally get the EPA figures out this whole biofuel, what that looks like for soybean oil, if they finally come out with a mandate, lock that stuff down, barring any of that stuff, supply and demand simply says the world has plenty of beans. We're going to have a record crop coming. and beans just don't make me feel all warm and tingly inside.
Yeah.
What do we do with that?
Well, so what we're going to do with that, let's change gears. So
it's not all bad. It's really not. It's just that we're not in the cycle of where we used to be. And it's just compounding this year because interest rates are still holding. I mean, yeah, the Feds came out and lowered them a couple times, but the cost of real money is still not cheap. It's not as cheap as it was. Historically, it's still cheap, compared to the 70s, 80s. It's still cheap. But compared to what we were used to, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Inputs, I mean, Jeff, you can speak to that. It's got its own supply and demand issues.
Absolutely.
And the inputs aren't coming down quite like what you would think with some of these commodity price levels. But the best way I've heard it put before is commodities, corn and beans lead inputs. The inputs don't lead commodities. So, and it's not like a corn drops down, inputs immediately come down. It takes time. It's a lagger. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah. And then, like I said, we've got some other issues. I mean, when you look on the input side from the fertilizer standpoint, will China come in and start exporting tons? What will happen with nitrogen production in the European Union? There's all these other things that go into this. There's not just a simple, hey, this is what we need, or this is what's going to happen. There's all these other, variables out there, some geopolitical, some just logistical supply issues that factor into that. And it's, I think we've been saying we were in a cycle it's going to be a rough couple of years. You just got to figure out how to keep your head down and survive, and then there'll be better times ahead. So,
yeah, that I would completely agree. I feel like we've talked about that. It's probably been 2-3 years now.
yeah,
but it was like, hey, no, I mean, because inputs at that point hadn't risen. We were getting $6 corn, $15, $13, $14 beans. It was like, now's the time to build your legacy. Like, we're kind of getting our steak, cake, ice cream. I mean, our little iced coffees at the beginning of the day. Like, we're getting all of it at once. We're getting the big piece of pie. And now we're like, oh, I'd just like some table scraps.
I think the old saying, when those times are good, you better put away a little bit for a rainy day. And it's like, we're kind of in that rainy season.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that. I mean, we're still seeing some good things come out of it. I'm getting some targets filled. Guys are, the farm level seems to be very in tune with what's going on, and they do seem to be trying to manage their risk as best they can. So they took advantage of where we kind of ran up, and now they're playing a little bit of defense right now. They're like, I'll have more to sell, and I'm fine with having more, but I want to take some risk off right now. So.
Well, you think about in those terms, and this will be a kind of a segue, but with all the inventory we have and on-farm storage and grain handling, and it will be very soon, they'll be moving a lot of grain. When you think about when you're in economic times like this and the finances are on your mind, we talked about the payment that's coming, and those things, and the markets, and the 12th is coming, and that'll tell us more. And as you're in there in the bin and you're trying to get the grain moved, and if you're going to make a mistake, that's not the place to do it. What's some of the hazards that farmers face when handling a grain that they need to be concerned about and aware of?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that popped in my head is that we're an industry that likes to do stuff, and we're an industry that thinks that we can do it. And when times are tough, we start to say, all right, fine, I'm going to do it myself. So the first piece of advice would be like, tell someone where you're at and what you're doing. Because if nothing else, that might be the one lifeline that you have, is that if someone hasn't heard from you in about 20, 30 minutes and they know you're doing something that is probably, if you're doing it safely, there's not going to be an issue. but there's a chance, right? I mean, it's life. There's always a chance of something happening. Tell someone where you're at. Like, because that'll throw an alarm of like, hey, you know what? I haven't heard from them in a while. I'm going to go check on them. And if nothing else, they're going to walk over there and you're going to be perfectly fine and everything's going to be good. But if nothing else, you almost made someone feel better. Like just knowing that someone checked on you. It's like, hey, you know what? I appreciate that. Thank you. So first and foremost, tell someone where you're at, what you're doing. Because like I said, if they haven't heard from you, they can check on you. This time of year, I would say one thing to be watching out for is grain temps. It sounds weird, we get down in the 40s and stuff like that, but corn will insulate itself and it can get hot. Beans can too. So air movement, corn bins, trying to move some stuff, things like that. Just trying to monitor what the temp is. You don't want grain quality getting away from you right now, because then you're going to pay for it later on when you start to pull it out. So just check them every once in a while. Don't get into a bin on top of stuff. There's always a chance of crusting over and a cave in. So go up there. I mean, they've got these little laser things where you can literally shoot it with a laser and it'll tell you the temp. And so moving it, that helps a lot. I mean, you can literally take 110 corn and just run it through an auger out of and onto a belt or whatever you're using, and it'll cool right down immediately. Just breaking it and moving it helps. So monitor the grain temps. That'll save you in the long term. Don't go poking around. I know it's tempting. Don't. There's other ways to get stuff flowing than poking around. So
that's the first. That's what we do. Right?
Yeah. It's tough not to do it. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not tough, but try not to do that. Because something always tries to grab you. It just does. Your first instinct is to lock down on whatever is trying to pull out of your hand. Next thing you know, it's pulling you, and it's like, let's just take the human air out of this and not poke.
So the one thing as far as like getting hot and stuff is they and I don't know, but do they have bin monitors now?
Oh yeah,
is that
so yeah, they've got cables that mount to the roof, and they dangle in there. You fill it with them in there. I mean, it's nothing crazy. They're really nice. Nothing else, they tell you the temp, but they also tell you how full your bins are. So instead of having if you got a really tall, big bin, I mean, you need to check it, but you don't have to climb up there every single day to see what level is at. You can just log in and on your computer or your phone, look at it, and it'll tell you where it's at. So it's kind of nice. No.
So there's an app for that, huh?
There is an app for that. Nice.
Sounds like one of the key things you could do is anything that you could automate, do it. And I think that would help go a long way. Yeah.
And automation's not cheap. It's not. But some of the risks of not taking care of some of this stuff is greater. The fallout from it is greater than what it's going to cost. The initial cost of it is.
I think I would add, you talked about just letting somebody know where you're at, have them check on you every once in a while. I think I'd also want to tell them where the off switch is. If there's
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Put a big red sign.
Yeah. If something goes wrong, hit this button.
Yeah. Like if you don't see me, just do this. If nothing else, best case scenario, I'm going to come out and be like, why'd you turn that off? It was finally running again.
That's the worst thing.
That's the worst thing that happens. Yeah. And that's not a bad thing.
No. So. All right. What else we got for Aaron? Is that about it?
Yeah. I think I sit in the same office with Aaron. So I've noticed here the last couple, right before the holidays and right after the holidays, there's been a lot of traffic in. So, I can tell when things are happening and stuff is, farmers are coming in, you're having a lot of conversations and stuff. And I guess, what's the summary of the conversations you're having today?
Summary would be on corn. Do you think we can get another nickel or dime out of this? What is a realistic target for our area? And a lot of it is nearby. And by nearby, I mean like right now. Like, what do we think we can get out of it for the Jan, Feb, maybe out in the March timeframe? We have not started talking about new crop yet. I think it's something that we need to be talking about. There's still some decent values out there compared to where we are right this second. again, it may be more of a defensive move, but if we start talking about 95 million acres of corn, because the corn to bean ratio is still saying plant corn, even though we have a 2 billion bushel carryout, it could be something that we look back on. Man, that was the right call at the right time with the information that we had to take some of the risk off of stuff that we're going to put in the ground. Beans, just, do you think we ought to just let go of them right now? Or actually, some of the conversations be like, man, I'm glad I let go of it. I've sold everything that I feel comfortable with. I've only got a couple, like maybe 1 or 2 loads left, but I don't want to sell them because I don't know if beans are always just, you fill up a 50,000 bushel bin, you're like, yeah, I may have like 45. Like beans are just weird like that. They just don't flow right. So that's been a lot of the conversation is, can we get another nickel, a dime out of this thing where, they're nervous about the report. I've got a lot of phone calls to make tomorrow to but to go back to our conversations last week and earlier this week of saying, okay, we've given it a couple days. How are we feeling about this report? We've let a target work for a week or 2 now. Maybe we need to adjust it. Or maybe if you've got plenty, maybe we just need to take it off the table, sell it right this second, and then see how this report comes out and readjust our plan from there. That's been a lot of it is, where are we at? What do we think this thing's going to do? Do we just need to take some risk off and then reassess post-report? I
don't envy farmers. There's a lot of tough decisions to try to need some guesswork in there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's not fun because you can see the stress. Like you can see the stress and you feel it. And so if you guys don't hesitate to give us a call. I mean, we'll help walk you through anything, talk to you. Nothing else. Sometimes just venting and complaining about it starts to put you in, just takes it off your chest. So don't hesitate to call someone.
So is that an open invitation that when Sal and I want to vent, we just call you?
Yes. 1-800-AARON.
I don't know what the time limit is on the voicemail, but I mean, my voicemail is always there for you guys.
Right.
We're not paying customers, Sal. I don't think we're.
All right. We're gonna wrap this one up and we're gonna vent on Aaron right now. So, well, I think that's all we got. Aaron, thanks for joining us again, and we do appreciate your insight. And we're gonna look on the 12th and see what that says, but we'll hope for good news.
Hope so. Thank you guys.
All right. Well, that's another episode of The High Ground, powered by Premier Companies. Thank you all very much.